Coming up next, Book TV presents Afterwards, an hour-long interview program where we invite a guest host to interview the author of a new book. This week, Tufts University history professor Peniel Joseph recalls the Black Power movement in his book, Dark Days, Bright Nights, From Black Power to Barack Obama. Mr. Joseph contends that the 1965 Voting Rights Act played a significant role in the ascendancy of black radical politics and assisted in paving the way for future African-American political leadership. Peniel Joseph profiles several of the movement's key figures, including Stokely Carmichael, Malcolm X, and Paul Robeson. He discusses his book with Kevin Merida, national editor of The Washington Post.
Welcome to Book TV's Afterwards. We're talking to Tufts University history professor Peniel Joseph, who has a very compelling new book out, Dark Days, Bright Nights, From Black Power to Barack Obama. Welcome, Professor Joseph.
Thank you.
Tell me what that title means. That's a very intriguing title.
Well, the title really talks about, refers to where black people have come from in this country, really from the dark days of slavery, segregation, and Jim Crow, all the way to having the first African-American president.
There was kind of a little ditty during the campaign that went viral, and you mentioned it early on in the book, and it goes, Rosa sat so Martin could walk, so Barack could run, so that your children can fly. And that became kind of a catchphrase toward the end, particularly among African Americans. You cite this and say that as emotionally powerful as these words may be, they make for poor history. Explain that.
Absolutely. The whole notion of Rosa Parks has become this iconic trope in the story of the civil rights movement. And it's really a period that I like to call the heroic period of the civil rights movement. And what I mean by that is May 17th, 1954 to August 6, 1965. And that encompasses the period from the Brown desegregation court decision all the way to the signing of the Voting Rights Act by Lyndon Johnson. And in between, what we're told both as students and as a nation in terms of the popular imagination is that there's all kinds of sit-ins and marches and demonstrations that occur, but they're really done by these famous iconic people. Basically, it's Rosa Parks, who just was so tired that she refused to get up from the bus in Montgomery, Alabama, and sparked the bus boycott, and basically a young preacher who even the president referred to during the election as this young preacher from Georgia, which is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who sort of leads the masses of African Americans from racial oppression. So this notion that Rosa sat and you know, Martin could do this stuff, and Jesse could run, and then Barack could fly, all these things, they sound good, but they really simplify a much more complicated history. And that complicated history really involves so many African Americans, women and men, who proactively dismantled racial segregation, including Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was an activist. She didn't just refuse to give up her seat by accident. It was a concerted, strategic effort to try to transform democratic institutions. So the lesson that we have to impart to our kids and to the nation is that this isn't just something that happens by accident by these iconic figures like a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. who come down from on high and help the rest of us. Right. I mean, that was really a debate during the election because remember Hillary Clinton had said during the election that, well, even though Martin Luther King Jr. was important, it took a president to sign the Voting Rights Act, because that's after when then Senator Obama kept invoking Dr. King, because he kept invoking Dr. King in the fierce urgency of now. And Hillary Clinton, then Senator Clinton, said, well, hold up a minute. It took a president to sign that bill. So she was invoking this notion that, look, our politics are still run in a top-down way. And even though King was this seminal figure, her point was that you still needed a president to transform this institution, to transform this nation. And really, I think that the most transformative parts of our history, especially when we think about the civil rights movement and the Black Power movement and these social movements of the 1960s and 70s and the post-war period, it's really ordinary people who transform this period. It's really sharecroppers, it's really seamstresses, it's really people who were in prisons, it's students, it's regular people who then converge with these figures who become iconic.